Hi everyone and welcome to another Pick a Card reading brought to you by 1millionnights.com. Today we have a special subject. We're doing this Pick a Card reading for the events of this upcoming super new moon in the sign of Scorpio, taking place either on the 14th or 15th of November, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is, at least from a strictly astrological perspective, an extremely transformative energy which on one hand does lead to a new beginning, because all new moons are associated with something fresh and new entering our lives. But this is where I do think this new beginning is heavily conditioned by karmic forces. So all of us will have to do a lot of karmic work, regardless of what that means for each individual personally. For some it's actual physical work, for others fulfilling certain obligations, for others inner psychological work, for others still it can be breaking certain relationship or soul contract or some conditioning deep inside. So it really depends on where 23 degrees of Scorpio falls in your personal chart, or how your life is configured from a karmic perspective. And also, before I get into the reading, this new moon speaks in harmony with the ruling planet of Scorpio, Pluto. So this is a very powerful Plutonic energy. And also the ancient ruling planet of Scorpio, Mars, is going direct at the same time. So regardless of how these energies are going to be playing out in our lives, even if they lead to the most wonderful, miraculous, life-saving new beginning, processing them and the journey towards that, because a new moon can manifest over the course of the next 6 months from the time it took place. So it's not going to be something very easy. It's not going to be just like soaring away like a free butterfly to something fresh and new, to embracing total liberty. No, it is almost like being stuck in quicksand, in tar, and having to crawl out from there. And only then can the moment when we soar away to something new, fresh and wonderful is likely to take place. Of course, if we don't get sucked in totally by the quicksand or the tar, because that might represent that something really big and important in our lives, in our journeys, even in our destinies and karma, because of how the world is in the present moment, can just end. So I really hate to say this, but there is a very small chance for certain individuals for this to be a very unhappy ending, in the sense that they just have to surrender something really important for them personally and wait out another cycle, maybe another cycle of 10 or 12 years, until they can once again start pursuing that which is very important for them personally. But that is very rare. So for most of us, I do hope that it's not gonna be like that. Now, since this is a pick a card reading, all you have to do is focus on the 3 piles of cards for a couple of seconds, or for as long as you need, and then choose the one which appeals to your intuitive senses the most. And after that, naturally just jump straight to the interpretation. The timestamps are gonna be available in the comments below. Thank you for being here with us, and in the following, please enjoy the interpretations of all the 3 piles. For those of you who have chosen the first pile, your cards are the 10 of Wands reversed, the Fool reversed, and 8 of Wands. Now this is something really positive, at least the outcome, but the journey towards that outcome, now that is not a very easy energy. It's not very easy to bear, I can tell you that. Well, first of all, the 10 of Wands reversed represents that either for the last 10 months of your life, and for other people, it can even represent the last 10 years, your life was simply filled with hardships. Now, the Ten of Wands can simply represent the cross that we have to bear. So it can be duties, responsibilities, obligations, hardships, weaknesses, maybe an illness, maybe someone who has mobility problems and that is causing a lot of unpleasantry in their lives. Maybe they have to rely on others and they absolutely dislike relying on other people. It takes away their sense of independence. Others might, be obligated to take care of other people, like a family, like a child, their elderly parents, or someone else very dear to them. And it's not that you don't like this, but it's becoming so very oppressive. And this is actually the word of the card, oppression. For others still, this situation is not really so much to do with obligations, but rather who you are. You are someone so very special, so creative, so full of inner beauty, imagination, fantasy, a very positive, uplifting outlook on life. You are like a light of hope in darkness, and yet your life keeps reflecting the opposite of it. Problems follow you, misfortune, you never have your way, you never get what you want. It's almost like the universe gives you the opposite of what you desire, and this is making your cross so very heavy that more than once in your lifetime you were very close to being totally crushed and turned to dust. But of course, regardless of what your situation is and what the Ten of Wands represents for you personally, it's reversed right now, which means that you are coping, which means that it's not actually crushing you under its full weight. Either you have solutions, which are of course imperfect, temporary improvisations, or just a strong psychological fortitude where you're fighting against the gravity, the weight of all of it. So regardless of how you're coping, it still means that the cross right now, it is not heavier than your capabilities, than your endurance. So it's not crushing you, but it's still existing in your life. It is still present. You wake up each and every day with the full awareness that it's there, that it's not going anywhere, it's not really changing, or if it's changing, it's a lot of years until you're free of it. So in this present moment, it's not really the effect of the problems of that cross which, unsettle you, but simply its presence there. Yes, it's manageable right now, you're doing okay, you're coping, but this can turn in a second, and that cross can, have the gravity of planet Earth, and then it is basically bound to crush you. And, this is how your life was, on and off. Sometimes it was manageable, and then something very quickly happened, something as simple as a bad word, a bad comment, a bad feedback, someone being horrible to you, a bad dream, or a moment of, depression or hopelessness, and immediately the Ten of Wands became upright, and it was unbearable. And, things were going as in a sinus, up and down. There were times when it was okay, it was manageable, you had everything under control, and you even felt strong enough to bear this. Then something happened and it all came crashing down. You just had to start fixing yourself, psychologically speaking, almost like you try your best to climb up a very steep mountain. You're almost there and then you fall, and you have no other choice but either to give up once and for all, or rest a little bit and then start the journey all over again. So this means that regardless if things are quite manageable right now, or the cross is getting heavier and heavier, let's not forget that astrologically we have the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, which is exactly that it gets as heavy as it possibly can psychologically. But anyway, the next card is the Fool reversed. Now the Fool reversed is definitely your biggest dream, your biggest goal, what you truly want to live, as in more freedom, more time for yourself, or basically just the possibility to enjoy life. But this doesn't mean materially as in luxury and going to the most exotic places and delighting all your senses. No, it's nothing like that. It is very, very, very simple. It is just being able to live in your own comfort, being able to listen to your own thoughts in peace and quiet, and just living life, being absolutely okay with who you are, how you are, and more importantly, it's not like you don't wanna help other people, especially those who kind of represent the cross in your life, but not like this, not when, this karmic contract or whatever it is just taking away your life and your liberty. You just don't want to be suffocated like this. You just want to be there for yourself. You want to do the same thing that you do for other people on a daily basis for yourself. And, this is such a small and almost natural, rightful thing to ask. And it is exactly this which is not given to you. And maybe it never was in your life. And this is what you truly desire. But more importantly, this Fool reversed also represents the influences of this new moon, which is an extremely powerful psychological energy, which, targets your unconscious mind. So it's not even something that is conscious or something that you can control, and it will wake up your inner Uranus, because the Fool in astrology is Uranus, planet of revolution, planet of uprising, and ultimately the planet of truth, which represents a very desperate, a little bit extreme, but also intense and necessary gesture of yours. What that is not really certain. It is not very clear. It can be like a sudden, unexpected decision. It can be a risk that you take where you say all or nothing. It can be or like a gesture where you step out of your comfort zone and try something totally out of your league. For example, a new job type, a new and revolutionary way to solve problems. But it can simply also represent a communication. It can represent how you truly feel and think just bursting out of you. Maybe a moment of breakdown when you just speak your truth in a very uncensored and unfiltered way, shocking everyone around you. But at the same time, even if this Fool reversed, regardless of how it's gonna play out, as like an opportunity, a gesture of yours, or just breaking down and being honest with everyone around you, even though this is, not so positive, it's a little bit painful naturally, it is gonna do something really important. Because once your inner truth actually is, reflected, spoken out, manifested through words or the gesture or whatever, unusual gesture you may do, it's going to ripple across the universe. And what follows is the Eight of Wands, the quickest energy in the tarot, which usually represents either something new instantly entering your life or a manifestation, because it's not something just random and chaotic. Because if you look at the Eight of Wands, all those wands, arrows, represents your desire, the seed of intention that you planted into the universe, which return bearing results, bearing fruits, which in the worst case scenario at least can give a resolution to your situation, as in, this is what you have to do, this is the course of events that you have to follow to escape the cross, so to speak, to escape your limitations, to have that new life that you have to do, even if it has compromises, even if it has, things which are not very comfortable to you. The big solution, the big picture is going to be motivation enough. And as I say, this is where the waiting truly stops, because this is an instant energy, and it can also represent that it comes from abroad, that it comes from a different culture, it comes from a very distant place. The Eight of Wands sometimes represents love, the fire of love, passion, new relationship, a new person. Maybe this new beginning of yours is going to enter your life as an unexpected encounter with someone new who can just help you, offer you a solution, help, guidance, or a love story where it's going to be just you and that person, and all the past will be cut off there and then, no going back. So either way, in conclusion, this outburst, the Fool reversed, whatever explodes, detonates deep inside of you, and whatever that psychological explosion will determine you to do, if it's a gesture or applying for a job or just expressing yourself or whatever it is, that is gonna have a very powerful reaction, both physically and karmically, and things are gonna be heading your way to offer you a solution, even though the solutions or whatever this fresh and new might mean is not, miraculous. It can have compromises to it. It might require you to surrender your cross, especially if that cross you're bearing is out of the goodwill, sheer goodwill and benevolence inside of you. Maybe you're gonna say, I'm really sorry I was benevolent, merciful, compassionate until this present moment, but I cannot bear it any longer. So either everyone who relies on me and my help finds another source, or you're gonna bury me because I cannot take this anymore. Regardless of how negative or dramatic this can be, it's gonna be something that you need so very badly. And yes, absolutely, that Eight of Wands represents that a totally new dimension of life, and your own story is gonna begin after. And even the healing process is gonna be very, very quick, because once you step into that new, no matter what compromises you made, and no matter what that Fool reverse means, what kind of inner explosion, it's gonna be history. It's gonna be more than worth it. So basically, all of this in a very symbolic but very simple way of expression is, you are somehow going to shock yourself and your life out of this state of stagnation where the problems don't seem to go away. It is going to be like a volcano erupting, and after it erupts, the landscape changes once and for all. But also the pressure is gone. For those of you who have chosen the second pile, your cards are the Emperor, the Nine of Swords reversed, and the Three of Wands. This combination of cards reminds me of the story of the ugly duckling, because it depicts a profound and deeply powerful regeneration from a psychological perspective, which is definitely going to change your life. The way you think about yourself, the way you see yourself, your principles, and those unconscious patterns which are actually governing our lives, our choices, and everything that we do, think, and feel. So for you guys, it's going to be massive. And here's why it's so very related to the story of the ugly duckling. While the Emperor and the Nine of Swords reversed is an extremely horrible combination. It is like being trapped in a life which is not really yours, which has absolutely nothing to do with who you were created to be, and it's not even because of any fault of your own. Now, this energy can go back either to the earliest childhood or the course of your teenage years, or maybe one very powerful specific moment in your life which kind of marked you in a very profound manner, and naturally all of this is negative. If it's childhood, when it could have been that emperor, either the dominance, the bullying, the twisted and misaligned principles of your family or father figure or religious education, which just simply shattered your self-confidence and twisted your mind. If it's your teenage years that we're talking about, then it was somehow like society, like every single person who you had to interact with each and every day of your life was poisoning you with a very twisted and unrealistic self-image, like you're weak, you're worthless, you're talentless, maybe you were bullied, maybe you were ridiculed, maybe it was your distinctiveness that made you become an outcast, an outsider, rejection, maybe unattractive, unlovable, the worst things that one can possibly imagine. And if it was one moment, one single episode in your life, well, it was a massive failure when a really good and, wisdom-based decision of yours turned out to be something really, really catastrophic, and you never really figured out why. You can blame yourself, you can blame so very many things, but it still doesn't make sense. And all of this is because either society or others, what others mean for us personally, were the main causes of this. So there's only a certain degree you can blame yourself. And when you can't see the fault, the problem in yourself, well, many times it's invisible. It is then when we basically enter into a personal quagmire where we just can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, because the healthy attitude from all perspectives is actually to take responsibility for all of our actions and not really blame other people or others or the universe or whatever. And since you have this very healthy attitude and you had it all your life, you always seek the answers on the inside, and when something goes wrong, you see what you did wrong and not really other people or any other circumstances. But this also led you to be the biggest and worst and merciless and meanest critic of yourself, which basically represented an invisible poison just eating up your soul and destroying your life. Everything that you did, the most positive, most uplifting gestures, even the moments of victory, triumph and success, was poisoned by this inner critic, by this horrible, merciless inner voice, almost like the inner devil, who just laughed and mocked and said, well, it's not perfect, it's not good enough, others did better, others did it like this, like that, they were more successful, triumphant, or whatever. So implicitly, it was this inner devil, or I'm not even sure how to call it, the shadow, but a very, very aggressive shadow that has been running your life. It is the emperor. And as I said, it can source from a parent, it can source from a boss, a teacher, or society in general, but it is and always was so very, very mean. And the greatest thing about what you have done is that yes, it has eaten you up from the inside and you have suffered so much because of this, but you always manage not to allow it to touch other people in your life. May that other person be a partner, a parent, or even those people who were horrible to you. You didn't project the very same thing. Of course, there were times when you lashed out. Of course, there were times when karma just burned them, but the fact that you didn't metamorphose into your aggressors or into a really horrible, toxic, poisonous, doomy and gloomy person, that is a miracle in itself. And if you ever have to credit yourself for something in this life, well, that is like your trophy, like your triumph. This is where 99% of people would have not resisted. 99.99% of people would have actually turned into their most toxic and hateful and deceitful selves. Because simply all this pain, and when, it is society who threatens you, who challenges you each and every day of your life, well, it just drives you into insanity. So you either fight or flight. You don't really hold your ground and stand in the position as you did, but you made it, you survived it. Even though you suffered so much, it didn't change you into something horrible. And I do believe that this Scorpio new moon is going to touch that nerve, but this time you are going to purge it out of yourself. How? I'm not really sure. It can be maybe like something totally internal, like a very deep depression, for example, like a mini dark night of the soul, which can last for just one single day, and on that day, it just burns out of you. It just awakes you to a totally different reality, that you are not the person your thoughts are telling you you are. Maybe that is when your divine spark just awakens, and like a phoenix you burst into inner psychological flames, burning away all the negativity, all the pain, all the suffering, and all those thoughts and thought patterns which want to make you believe that you are not worthy, that you are small, that you're insignificant, that you should be ashamed of who you are. And from those ashes, the true, optimistic, loving, blissful, highly talented, imaginative, friendly, life-loving person will arise. And you know what? What you have been through all these years is the hardest possible thing a human person could bear, could live through. And this is where most people don't triumph. Most people are swallowed by that inner devil, so to speak. But you stand victorious. You are standing tall. And that is why almost instantly that Three of Wands represents that something totally new is gonna open up in your life. That very moment when that inner purge is complete, when you finally witness yourself in a totally different light, when that duckling finally becomes aware that it's not a duck, it's a swan. It's beautiful, it is glorious, it is powerful, and it is meant to roam the skies but also the waters. The symbol of divine beauty and grace. Well, that epiphany, that realization, that inner rebirth is simply instantly gonna change a lot of things in your life. So that Three of Wands can represent when you see yourself radically differently, when you see the truth of who it is that you are, when you embody who you were created to be, not a victim, not an outcast, not someone struggling with themselves all the time. Well, immediately life is gonna take a totally new dimension. Everything is going to be different. And what's more even special, well, relating to the story of the ugly duckling and also the symbolism of the Three of Wands, you might find or come across or be united by karmic forces with other ugly ducklings, so other swans really, people who are exactly like you, and not only can they profoundly understand what you have been going through, but this is where the kindness, the love, the gentleness, and the wisdom is gonna be reciprocal and mutual, and that is definitely going to make your life feel totally different. For those of you who were attracted to the third pile, your cards are the 10 of coins reversed, the 8 of swords, and the 6 of cups. Now for you guys, it is a really delicate situation where something bad or something unpleasant or something which seems kind of unfavorable turns into a big blessing. Now the problem is that not everyone can have the wisdom or the deep trust or the profoundness to perceive it that way. So basically, in a nutshell, well, the 10 of coins reversed definitely represents material loss. Maybe your business, your job, your career, your livelihood, your income is under a lot of stress and danger to be minimalized, downgraded. You are facing, hardship materially. And the loss part, where the downgrade is not just a danger, it is almost something 100% certain, well, that will lead to a transformation. But if you don't have this maturity, the spiritual maturity, not to perceive it as doom and gloom, well, then you really should just stop listening to the recording here and then, because that will mean that you will not able to accept whatever comes after. But if you do have the spiritual maturity to process that many times in life, loss and, a downgrade, so to speak, is the biggest blessing we could have asked for, then please continue listening to this last part of the recording. Well, as I said earlier, the 10 of coins reverse is clear. Either a big expense or a downgrade of your material situation, losing money, maybe a debt or a credit, a loan from the bank, getting out of control, not evolving in a very favorable way. If you have certain investments, maybe they are not gonna be paying off handsomely. Or if you invested your money or earnings into like cryptocurrency, which is so very trendy right now, maybe that will have a massive fall. It can also mean that someone else in your life suffers a massive economical, financial, material loss, and it will affect you directly. If it's your partner, for example, if it's your child, because the 10 of coins can speak about that all of this is affecting both you and other people very, very close to you. In the worst possible scenario, it can also represent like losing out on an inheritance or on something that is legally, rightfully yours, but for one reason or another, you just cannot have it. And ultimately, regardless of what it means, well, it definitely leads to a downgrade of your lifestyle, of your material life, and it will force you to readapt yourself. And it is very possible that the Scorpio new moon is going to make all of this that much more obvious, that your life from a material perspective is not going to be the same again. So you will need to readapt, or you will have to figure stuff out, or go back to the drawing board and make up a new plan or a new strategy, where you might have to give up on certain items which, make you very happy. For example, expensive car, expensive jewelry, expensive clothes, something that have to do with luxury more than utility. And on the other hand, this also implicitly represents that you have to swap those over for simpler things, cheaper things. Try out certain, things or services or whatever that can be correlated to this, which you never really have tried out in your life. For example, going to a food bank or going to a not so very fancy restaurant. But of course, these are all just examples, but all of which you once in your life or before this, you have deemed, that they don't resonate with you, you don't belong there, you are entitled to the finer things in life because of your sacrifices, because of your intellect, because of your talents and creativity. It doesn't really matter. But this is where, after trying out those new experiences, or selling what you have to sell, or simply giving up what you cannot save, may that be an investment or whatever, your eyes are slowly but surely going to be opening to something, a different layer, or a different, dimension, nuance of life, which was absolutely alien to you. And the most positive thing in all of this is that you are gonna fall in love with it. May this be a much more minimalistic lifestyle, or maybe it will lead you mentally, emotionally, or intuitively to just basically escape your old lifestyle and try out something totally, absolutely new. Like, for example, if you have been a resident of a big city, of a big metropolis all your life, this is where not having all the commodities and luxuries and all of that is gonna just ignite your inner fire to leave everything behind and try the countryside, or to try something, a lifestyle, for example, or a place or a living condition which is much more minimalistic, but it's so full of other things, small joys in life, friends, time for yourself, an easier life, no sacrifices needed, no commitments, no duties, no deadlines, no rushing, no sacrificing your health, your time, and basically your life force, your life energy, and the time that you have left on this earth in this life for something which doesn't even make you that much happier. Or it could be that if you have a family, it is your family, maybe your children, your partner, who is going to really, really be enjoying it. Because ultimately, the Eight of Swords, it will be freedom, but the kind of freedom you could never even imagine. A freedom where you don't need all that money, where you don't need all the resources, where you don't need all the conditioning, the income, relation with other people, contracts and all of that. A life where it's just you guys and your own happiness. Basically, life is gonna be about just each and every day trying your very best to be happy, and that's it. And the best part of all of this is, the Six of Cups, it is a very strong Scorpionic energy telling you that eventually you are gonna recover everything that you lost, but you will never wanna go back to that, symbolic slavery, the Eight of Swords, where you're tied down from every single direction, from people, from bosses, from everyone in your life. You will never wanna go back. So that means that your new life is gonna be that much more prosperous, not just materially, but emotionally. And what's more important, regardless of who you are, how old you are, how your life was or is, it will be like living a second childhood. Life is gonna be that much more dreamy, free, and light-hearted. And when you taste that light-heartedness, when you taste what's it like not to be stressed about deadlines, to manage money, and most importantly the attachments, to fear loss, to make sure that money is okay, to make sure that money is producing more money and stuff like that. When you're free from all of that, life is gonna feel like a fairy tale, like a totally different dimension. So this Scorpio new moon is gonna really open a new chapter or even a new dimension of your life story. Well, this concludes today's Pick a Card. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you once again for listening. I wish everyone a very magical and blessed new moon. Until next time, bye for now.